A reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Romans. Brothers and sisters, owe nothing to anyone except to love one another, for the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. The commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not kill, you shall not steal, you shall not covet, and whatever other commandments there may be, are summed up in this saying, namely, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no evil to the neighbor, hence, love is the fulfillment of the law. The word of the Lord.
The responsorial psalm. The response is, bless the man who is gracious and lends to those in need. Bless the man who fears the Lord, who greatly delights in his commands. His posterity shall be mighty upon the earth. The upright generation shall be blessed. Bless the man who is gracious and lends to those in need. He dawns through the darkness, a light for the upright. He is gracious and merciful and just. Well for the man who is gracious and lends, who conducts his affairs with justice. Bless the man who is gracious and lends to those in need. Lavishly he gives to the poor. His generosity shall endure forever. His horn shall be exalted in glory. Bless the man who is gracious and lends to those in need.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke. Great crowds were traveling with Jesus, and he turned and addressed them. If anyone comes to me without hating his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Which of you, wishing to construct a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if there is enough for its completion? Otherwise, after laying the foundation and finding himself unable to finish the work, the onlookers should laugh at him and say, "This one began to build, but did not have the resources to finish." Or what king, marching into battle, would not first sit down and decide whether with 10,000 troops he can successfully oppose another king advancing upon him with 20,000 troops? But if not, while he is still far away, he will send a delegation to ask for peace terms. In the same way, every one of you who does not renounce all his possessions cannot be my disciple. The Gospel of the Lord.
The first reading comes from Romans 13, 8-10. This passage begins with the idea of owing no one any debt, that we shouldn't spend what we don't have. But there is one debt we owe everybody, to love them. And so we should be willing to commit ourselves to loving our neighbor, because that is the fulfillment of every command. That if we truly love them, we're not going to do anything wrong against them, and in fact, we'll spend our life trying to serve them. The Gospel comes from Luke 14, 25-33. Jesus begins by saying, the only ones who can follow him are those who hate their mother, father, children, brothers, sisters. We have to hate our own family to love Jesus. Now we have to realize this is a Jewish saying, that very often Jewish people in the time of Jesus spoke with a bit of exaggeration. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. Jesus didn't intend that to be interpreted literally. In the 1970s, some Christian cults interpreted this literally, and people would send letters to their parents saying, "I hate you," because they wanted to follow Jesus. And that's a misinterpretation of what Jesus meant. Now it's odd that Luke would have copied this down literally, because Luke, remember, wasn't Jewish. But in Luke's Gospel, we often find a more original version of what Jesus said, where in Matthew, it's very often cleaned up a bit. And then Jesus speaks about the cost of discipleship. He already spoke about the fact that following him has to be more important than belonging to an earthly family, Now he speaks about the fact that no one would build a tower if he wasn't sure that he could complete the construction. No one would go to war if he wasn't sure that he could win the battle. Likewise, if we're going to follow Jesus, we should know what we're getting into. Jesus calls us to the cross. We should know that from the start and be willing to pay the price. Because some people think that being a Christian is simply going through certain practices and then God owes them, that God is to give them the lottery numbers, God is to make sure that the biopsy comes out well, etc. That's not what it's all about. Christianity is not about what we can get, it's about what we can give. And we're called to pay the ultimate price, the cross. And may God bless us.